Have you ever felt that desperate rush of panic when you realize another year has passed? Another decade gone? The sensation that time is slipping through your fingers like water, never to be reclaimed? Have you ever looked at your life and thought, I don't have enough time? This fear haunts you at night. It follows you through busy days. It creeps into quiet moments when you pause long enough to hear your own thoughts. The terror that your life is too short for all you wish to accomplish, experience, become. But what if I told you this perception is a profound illusion? What if the problem isn't the brevity of life, but how you're choosing to live it? The truth is uncomfortable but liberating. Your life is not short, you're just wasting it. And that changes everything. Have you noticed how society trains you to perceive time as your enemy? The endless hustle culture, the glorification of busy schedules, the constant reminder that time is running out. You've been conditioned to chase efficiency, to optimize every moment, to fear the ticking clock. And yet, paradoxically, this obsession with time makes you waste it more profoundly than ever before. Look around you, people frantically rushing through their days, constantly distracted, always somewhere else mentally. They check their phones 150 times daily, spend years scrolling through feeds showing lives they aren't living, consume content they won't remember tomorrow. They mistake movement for progress, busyness for purpose, distraction for living. And you? How much of your precious time evaporates in meaningless activities that neither bring joy nor create value? How many hours disappear into mindless consumption, rumination about the past, anxiety about the future? The average person will spend over a decade of their life consuming media, years scrolling through social feeds, countless hours worrying about opinions of people they don't even respect. This isn't a life that's too short. This is a life that's being systematically squandered. The Roman philosopher Seneca recognized this paradox 2,000 years ago, writing in his timeless essay, On the Shortness of Life, words that cut through the centuries to expose our self-deception. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Seneca understood something profound about human nature. We complain about the fleeting nature of time while simultaneously treating it as though it were infinite. He observed the wealthy men of Rome, constantly busy with trivial matters, rushing from appointment to appointment, never fully present, never truly alive in their moments. They are not at leisure, he wrote, they are merely idle. Does this sound familiar? Seneca's insight wasn't merely an observation of Roman society, it was a piercing diagnosis of the human condition. We postpone our real lives for some imagined future when we'll finally have enough time. We say, I'll live when I retire, I'll be present after this project, I'll focus on what matters once this phase is over. But as Seneca warns us, while we are postponing, life speeds by. His philosophy challenges the very foundation of how we perceive our relationship with time. It's not about having more time, it's about how we choose to inhabit the time we have. This isn't abstract philosophy. This is about the texture and quality of your daily existence. This is about the difference between a life half-lived and one fully embraced. What Seneca recognized, and what modern psychology confirms, is that our perception of time passing quickly or slowly is not objective. It's experiential. It's psychological. When we engage deeply with life, when we are fully present, time expands. When we live on autopilot, distracted and disconnected, years can vanish in what feels like moments. But there's something deeper going on here that modern society rarely addresses. Something beyond time management tips and productivity hacks. The real issue isn't how much time you have, it's who controls it. Think about it. Who actually owns your time? Really consider this question. You might immediately answer, I do. But is that really true? Or have you surrendered your most precious resource to employers, to social obligations, to digital platforms designed to monetize your attention, to other people's expectations and demands? Modern life is structured around a profound dispossession, the subtle theft of your time. And the most insidious aspect, you've been conditioned to participate in this theft willingly, even enthusiastically. But what if I told you there's another way to experience time? What if the feeling that life is too short is actually a symptom of a much deeper problem? A problem with how you relate to your own existence. The philosopher Martin Heidegger spoke of authentic time versus inauthentic time. Inauthentic time is clock time, mechanical, external, imposed. Authentic time is experiential, rich, meaningful, fully inhabited. Most people live almost exclusively in inauthentic time. They are ruled by calendars, deadlines, appointments. Their days are chopped into artificial segments that have nothing to do with the natural rhythms of meaningful experience. This creates the psychological condition where life seems to accelerate as you age. Years blur together because there's nothing to distinguish one day from the next. Nothing to create the friction that slows down subjective time. Think about your childhood summers, how they seemed to stretch forever. This wasn't because you had more time, it was because you were fully engaged, present, experiencing novelty, learning, growing. Your attention wasn't fragmented, you weren't mentally time-traveling to the past or future. You were simply there, in each moment. And in that presence, time expanded. But what happens as adults? We slip into patterns, routines. We stop noticing, we stop engaging fully. We sacrifice presence for productivity, depth for breadth, quality for quantity. And then we wonder why life seems to be rushing past us. The truth is both tragic and empowering. Time isn't speeding up. You're just not fully living in it anymore. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. But this can change. Right now. Today. The first step is a radical shift in how you perceive the problem. Stop thinking you need more time. Start examining how you're using the time you have. Seneca advised, "It is not the man who has too little who is poor, but the one who hankers after more." The same applies to time. The poverty is not in your allotment of hours, but in your relationship to them. How do you transform this relationship? How do you reclaim ownership of your time and, by extension, your life? It begins with presence. Not the Instagram-friendly, commercialized mindfulness that has been stripped of its transformative power, but a deep, uncomfortable confrontation with how you're actually spending your days. Start by conducting a ruthless audit of where your time actually goes. Not where you think it goes or where you wish it went. Where it actually disappears to. Most people are shocked when they honestly track their time. They discover hours vanishing into activities that align with neither their stated values nor their deeper desires. They find themselves living someone else's life, following scripts they never consciously chose. The average person spends over 2 hours daily on social media, 3 hours watching television, and countless more in a state of partial attention, neither fully engaged in work nor fully present in leisure. Is it any wonder life seems to be slipping away? The second step is to distinguish between what ancient philosophers called chronos and kairos. Chronos is quantitative time, the ticking clock, the passing seconds. Kairos is qualitative time, the right moment, the opportune time, the time of meaning and significance. Most of modern life is structured around chronos, but a life well lived unfolds in kairos. How do you shift from chronos to kairos? By developing what philosopher Pierre Hadot called spiritual exercises, practices that transform your relationship with time. One such practice is the elimination of phantom urgency, that constant nagging sense that everything needs to be done immediately. This artificial urgency robs experiences of their depth and meaning. It creates a perpetual state of stress that paradoxically makes time seem to pass faster. Ask yourself, what in my daily life is truly urgent? What actually cannot wait? You'll likely find that very few things require immediate attention, despite the manufactured pressure to respond, act, decide instantly. By questioning urgency, you create space for presence. You allow experiences to unfold at their natural pace, rather than rushing through them to get to the next thing, and the next, and the next. Another powerful practice is single tasking with complete absorption. Multitasking isn't just inefficient, it's a profound form of self-deception. When you fragment your attention, you're not actually doing multiple things simultaneously. You're rapidly switching between them, never fully engaging with any. This switching creates what neuroscientists call attention residue. Part of your mental resources remains stuck on the previous task, diminishing your capacity to be fully present with the current one. The result? Everything takes longer and feels less satisfying. Instead, practice giving your complete attention to one thing. Whether it's a conversation, a piece of music, a meal, or work, be there fully. Notice the richness that emerges when you stop dividing yourself. This doesn't mean you need to slow down in all areas of life. It means being intentional about where you invest your precious attention. The Stoics practiced what they called the art of acquiescence, focusing exclusively on what is within their control and accepting with equanimity what isn't. Applied to time, this means distinguishing between time that is truly yours and time that belongs to necessity. Not all hours can be reclaimed. Some must be given to maintenance, obligation, survival. But even then, you have a choice in how you inhabit those hours, whether you resent them as theft or accept them as the necessary foundation that makes other experiences possible. Perhaps the most powerful practice of all is the regular contemplation of your own mortality. What philosophers call memento mori. This isn't morbid, it's clarifying. When you truly internalize that your time is finite, something remarkable happens. The inessential falls away. Priorities clarify. You become unwilling to waste hours on activities and relationships that don't deeply matter to you. Seneca advised, hold every hour in your grasp. Lay hold of today's task, and you will not need to depend so much upon tomorrow's. While we are postponing, life speeds by. The contemplation of death strips away the illusion of limitless time that causes us to procrastinate the meaningful in favor of the convenient or comfortable. These practices aren't about squeezing more productivity from your hours, quite the opposite. They're about experiencing time differently, about transforming quantitative time into qualitative time, about shifting from time spent to time inhabited. But to truly reclaim your time, you must go even deeper. You must confront the uncomfortable truth that much of what you do with your hours isn't freely chosen at all. It's the result of conditioning, of unconscious scripts, of psychological patterns established long before you had the awareness to question them. This is where the work becomes truly challenging. It requires examining not just how you spend your time, but why. Why do you feel compelled to check your phone the moment you wake up? Why can't you sit in silence for 5 minutes without reaching for distraction? Why do you commit to obligations that drain rather than nourish you? Often, these behaviors aren't about time management at all. They're about emotional management. Distraction isn't primarily about boredom. It's about escaping uncomfortable feelings. Busyness isn't about productivity. It's about avoiding the discomfort of facing yourself. As Carl Jung observed, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The same applies to your relationship with time. Until you make these unconscious patterns conscious, they will control your hours and you will call it not having enough time. The path to time abundance requires emotional honesty. It demands acknowledging what you're actually avoiding when you reach for distraction, when you overcommit, when you stay busy rather than present. If you continue living as you have been, time will indeed seem to accelerate. Years will blur together, distinguished only by external markers, birthdays, holidays, vacations, rather than by the quality of your presence and engagement. If you continue surrendering your attention to digital platforms designed to exploit it, you will look back with the painful realization that you traded irreplaceable hours of your finite life for ephemeral content you can't even remember consuming. If you continue postponing deep engagement with what truly matters to you, the regret will compound. As Bronnie Ware discovered in her work with the dying, the most common regret at the end of life is not having had the courage to live a life true to oneself, rather than the one expected by others. If you continue treating time as something to spend, rather than something to inhabit, you will perpetuate the very problem you're trying to solve. No amount of time will ever feel sufficient when your relationship with it remains unexamined. This is the fork in the road. This is the decision point that will determine whether you continue to experience your life as too short or begin to recognize its inherent abundance. Choose the latter path and something remarkable happens. Time expands, not in the sense of having more hours, that's impossible, but in the sense of experiencing the hours you have more fully, more richly, more meaningfully. When you engage deeply, rather than skimming the surface of experience, time slows down subjectively. When you fully inhabit your days, rather than merely passing through them, life no longer seems to be rushing by. This is the paradox. By accepting the finitude of time rather than fighting against it, by embracing quality over quantity, by choosing depth over breadth, you actually expand your subjective experience of time. As Seneca wrote, life is long if you know how to use it. You are not a victim of time's brevity. You are the author of how you inhabit the time you have. And in that authorship lies the difference between a life that feels too short and one that feels abundantly sufficient, even in its inevitable finitude. The choice is yours, not someday, not when you have more time, now in this moment, and the next, and the next. Will you continue to waste the life you have, chasing the illusion of more time? Or will you begin today to fully inhabit the hours that are already yours? Your life is not short, but it is finite. And how you choose to live within that finitude makes all the difference. So I ask you, what will you do differently tomorrow? How will you reclaim even 1 hour from distraction, from unnecessary obligation, from unconscious habit? Share in the comments one way you plan to inhabit your time more fully, not manage it, not optimize it, inhabit it. Because in that difference lies the secret to a life that feels not short, but richly sufficient.